And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman, host of Cottage Talk. And in this episode, it's going to be another quick preview focusing on the team news for Fulham ahead of the Bournemouth match. I will be just sharing my thoughts on what Marco Silva let the media know ahead of this match against Bournemouth with some key players. We'll be talking about that. And also at the end of this quick preview, I'll be sharing my prediction. If you're watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on this show. And I want to thank my good friend, Chris Goodwin, even though he's a Liverpool supporter, he always checks out my podcast. Thank you, Chris, for chiming in. You were actually just watching my last show. So thank you again, as always. Okay. So I also want to mention, and I'll be mentioning this continuously for a while, because I think this is a big deal. Cottage Talk is now part of the talkSPORT fan network. Hopefully you'll be hearing more about this on talkSPORT after the World Cup, but it's a big deal for us. So I'm just very proud and happy to be part of the talkSPORT fan network. Okay, let's not waste any time. Before we talk about Fulham, let's talk about Bournemouth. And Bournemouth has been, I guess you could say, a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect to see Bournemouth right now where they are on the table. They're ahead of Fulham, a little bit ahead of Fulham. So I want to give them full credit for what they've done. What's interesting about Bournemouth is we know a lot about them. Many similar players, Solanke, Billing, some key players on there, Christie. They have some talented players that I think can play in the Premier League and are showing it. What's interesting is that the former manager, which I'll be mentioning in a second, didn't seem to have faith in the players that he had. And for some reason, Gary O'Neill is getting a lot out of the players that Scott Parker had. So is that about the talent of Bournemouth? Is it about Scott Parker? Is it a little bit of both? I'm not sure. But I want to give full credit to the players of Bournemouth and Gary O'Neill, especially getting the most out of it where Scott Parker could not. So congratulations to their good start. I have nothing against Bournemouth. In fact, before Scott Parker went there, I always checked them out because they're a small club. Fulham are a little bigger club, but we're not big clubs fighting in the Premier League. So I had nothing against Bournemouth. And that goes to what I'm going to say right now. No Parker, no problem with me. We move on. I wish them the best this season. I listened to a very popular podcast or video series called Back the Net. And what's interesting about these guys are very open and honest. I actually watched their preview of this upcoming match, and I found it interesting that one of the co-hosts, basically, they were talking about all of the rhetoric that they were hearing from Fulham supporters. And at the time, it sounds like they didn't want to hear it because, again, it's a new manager. They just thought, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that maybe we were a little bit bitter about Scott Parker leaving, but we were actually telling them the truth. And a year later, watching Back the Net, they basically said, you know what? We were right going far back there. We ended up being right. The Fulham supporters were right. But, I don't blame them for wanting to believe in their manager. But it's cool that in the end, fans of Bournemouth, including the fans from Back of the Net, the host of Back to the Net, they finally saw what we saw. That, listen, he got two teams promoted, but he also really, it's who he was. Fulham are a better side without him, and Bournemouth are as well. And I wish them the best, but obviously want Fulham to win this match upcoming on Saturday, and I very much look forward to it. Okay. So now let's talk about the team news. And Mitro is a serious doubt for this match. Marco Silva had his presser earlier. And I'm now going to share a tweet from Peter Rutzler from The Athletic. We can go over exactly what Marco had to share because I don't think there's any question that there's a doubt here. And to me, it's a serious doubt. I don't think he's going to play, but you tell me what you think about what Marco Silva had to share. This is from Peter Rutzler. This is what Marco had to say on Mitrovic. quote, he's getting better. He did the warm-up in the session today, was more strategy. Today was the first day he was involved with the team after 2 weeks without. We're checking and assessing him, unquote. So they will be checking on him. That is from Peter Rutzler. That was in his tweet from the team news. And, again, this shouldn't be a surprise. This should not be a surprise that Mitro's a doubt. That's going to lead me to talk about who I think will be his replacement. And it's Carlos Vinicius. And I think he can do a job. And it's funny, I was talking to another Fulham supporter about this. There's been a lot of negativity about his performance against West Ham. I actually thought he played well. And I'm going to explain why and why I believe he's going to do a good job if he has to start in the next match against Bournemouth. Reason being is he was, again, playing defense, coming back, tracking back, and he was also involved in the build-up play. Now, did he score a goal? No, but he was involved. He was holding up the ball well, and I don't understand what the negativity is with Carlos Vinicius. I look at it this way. You tell me if I'm wrong. Feel free to comment on this. But someone that Spurs brings in to back up Harry Kane, that speaks volumes to me. There's a reason why they did it. There's a reason why Fulham brought Carlos Vinicius in. And I think he's a very similar player to Mitro. We'll see if he can score goals, but it's more than that. He's doing the other things that Mitro did that made Mitro a complete player. I think Carlos Vinicius can do a job. I'm not saying that he is not going to make us miss Mitro, but I think he could do a job against Bournemouth. I truly believe that. Okay. So now I just want to talk a little bit about the other team news that Peter shared from Marco Silva's presser. Again, this is revealing too, so I'm going to share this in a second. So in the presser, Marco Silva also revealed this. And it's interesting, a couple of things. Silva says Willian will be involved. Kurzawa and Tete are out. I'll get to Willian in a second. But I want to go back and talk about Kenny Tete. Kenny Tete actually has played very well for Fulham. And a concern I have about Kenny Tete is his injuries. Can you count on Kenny Tete? In 3 seasons now with Fulham, he's been injured a significant amount of time each season. So Fulham have really become needy when it comes to having him on the pitch. He has become that valuable to them. So the issue will become, if Kevin and Babu cannot do the job, Fulham in January have to find another right back. I think Kenny Tete is a very good footballer, very good right back, and has done a fantastic job. But can you count on him? The injuries, these things happen. Some players are simply injury prone. I don't blame Kenny Tete. But Fulham have to make a decision on him upcoming, because can you count on him for a full season? And I'm going to say right now, no. And you're going to need a replacement. So they also have to make a judgment on Kevin and Babu. And that's going to lead me to talk about him for this upcoming match. I'm going to say this right now. I know that many fans are expecting Fulham, and I'm expecting them to play Bobby Decordova-Reid, who I think did an admirable job at right back. I'd like them to play Kevin and Babu, and everyone's saying, well, why, Russ? He's played terrible so far. Well, I don't think we have seen enough to make a judgment on him yet. And plus, I think you do need to make a judgment on him because you have a decision to make if you need another right back in January. So I say play Kevin and Babu, take the risk. You can always make a switch if it doesn't work out. He has pace. What we've seen so far is not being the greatest at his number one job, which is his defensive duties. Well, he's going to need to do that in this match against Bournemouth because they could be dangerous down the wings. But I would still go with Kevin and Babu because I think, honestly, Bobby Decordova-Reid is more valuable up front. So that's kind of where I'm going. Plus, I want to see what they ultimately have with Kevin and Babu. Okay. So as I mentioned it in that tweet, Marco also said that Willian could be involved in this match. So could he start? I wouldn't be against Willian starting in this match because I think he's another player that I know some supporters aren't that fond of Willian, but I think he's a player that can help Fulham over the course of the season. This is a perfect match for him. If he is able to start, I would play him. If not, I would bring him into the match if you need him. I think this is a player that's going to be valuable over the course of the season. I'm glad that he's back. I am totally glad that he's back. Okay. So that's going to lead to talk about the starting 11 and what I think Marco's going to go with. I think he's going to stick with Leno. I think he will go with Bobby Decordova-Reid, Tosin and Ream, and Anthony Robinson. I think what you will see is Paulinho, Reed, Pereira, and then I think you will see up front, I think you're going to see Vinicius because I don't think you're going to have Mitro. I'm going to say Harry Wilson starts on the right and Neeskens Cabano on the left. We'll see. And I actually wouldn't be against that. I wouldn't be against that. The only change I would make, and I love Bobby Decordova-Reid, but I would start Kevin and Babu instead of him. I would do it. I would definitely do it. I would do it. And if Harry Wilson isn't a go, then I would go with Bobby Decordova-Reid as a winger. So that's what I would do. And I would have Vinicius up front. That's what I'm going with my starting 11. Okay. Coming up next to end this quick preview, I'm going to give you my prediction for this match. Okay. Here is my prediction for the match. And what's interesting about this is with the last two matches, it would be easy for me to go with a draw. It's funny because WhoScored.com, I just checked there. They went with a 1-1 draw. That makes sense. And I think a lot has to do with how Bournemouth have rallied under Gary O'Neill. I certainly understand that. With Mitro potentially out, it's easy to say Fulham might just get a point on this or could potentially lose. I'm not going there. I still believe in this team. I believe in Marco because two players are going to be in there that I think are very key to how Fulham play. I can't believe I'm going to say one of them. One of them obviously is Paulinho. The other one is Anthony Robinson. I think he is key to what Fulham want to do down the left and sets everything up. We need crosses in the box. I know Anthony isn't the greatest at it, but I think we'll have wingers that will be able to do that as well. So I'm going to go 3-1 to Fulham. I want a clean sheet, but I'm going to go 3-1 to Fulham. That's going to be my prediction for this. Okay, let's see. Chris Goodwin, he's going 1-1. I'm going to share this from my friend Dean Monroe. Vinicius is a quality striker, just plays differently, which looks awkward in a system set up for Mitro. Vinicius wants the ball jammed at his feet and take defenders on, particularly closer to the box where he wants other players involved so he can slide a pass. So again, I'm not going to disagree with Dean. I think he plays a little bit similar to Mitro, but I see your point there, Dean. Very good for you to mention that. Let's see. I do have another comment from my friend Val. If he don't play, we will struggle. I hope Wilson plays. Carlos will be okay, but he's not Mitro. We're talking about Vinicius. And Val goes 2-1 to Fulham. So I got a 1-1 draw, 2-1 to Fulham, and I'm going 3-1 to Fulham. Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone who watches these quick previews. I know I'm doing them solo. It's just because of my work schedule. It's been difficult to find time to do shows, so I'm kind of doing them on the fly. But I want to thank everyone who watches and listens to all the shows. I really appreciate it. We will do a post-match show. We'll absolutely do a post-match show. And on Sunday, I just want to mention, Chris Goodwin also said, subscribe to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. A good friend, Chris Goodwin. Thank you for doing that, my friend. And as he said, subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and Cottage Talk is now part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. There's a Goldman for you. That's going to end it for this quick episode of Cottage Talk. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.